Right at our garage, let's see what we're rolling out this week. Looks like a 2018 GMC Terrain SUV. Nice looking rig, especially with this red metallic paint. Looks long enough to accommodate a third row seat, but it doesn't. And here we have the rear view. You don't see too many GMC Terrains on the road. They only sell around 90,000 per year, compared to the Honda CR-V or Ford Escape. They do over 300,000 per year. But then again, this is basically the same thing as the Chevy Equinox. I think I'm pronouncing that right, which sells about 270,000 per year. So if you add that up, the Chevy sales and the GMC sales, they actually sell more than the Honda or the Ford. As for myself, I would choose the GMC version simply for the better looks alone, but that's just me. The first day I had the GMC Terrain, I had a little accident. As you can see, this truck ran me head on. But even though the Ford was demolished, not a scratch on the GMC, proving that GM has a far better build quality. See, proof right here. That's going to cost a bundle to fix. So while he's waiting for a tow truck, I'm going to drive off and get some lunch. Alright guys, the truck accident is just a gag, never happened, didn't hit the truck didn't hit me. But I have to make that disclaimer because otherwise there'll be rumors going around. I'll be getting paperwork from the head GM office wanting to know why I demolished their nice Terrain in front of a Ford F-250. I didn't, and that's it. Just a gag. Perfect condition, not a scratch. So let's continue on with the test on a more serious note. The base price starts around $24,000, but the option list can get rather long and the price rather high. We have the upgraded SLT, starts at 31 grand. Here's the extra list of goodies. With the total tab. And if you want all-wheel drive, which we did not get, or the bigger engine, which we did not get, the price goes up even more. Here's where it's made, in case you're curious. If you watch my videos, you know one of the first things we do when we get a vehicle is take it out at night and test the headlights. We're going to do that right now. It's dark enough. Let's take these lights out and see what they do. Here we have the low beams on a building 100 feet away. Plenty of light, nice and bright. Go to the high beam, extra bright. No complaints at this distance. Here we have the high beams on a building 300 feet away with a chain link fence in between. Bright light, good widespread, no complaints. Go to low beam, goes out to around 275 feet. Excellent for city driving. These are very good headlights, no complaints at all. The outside temperature this morning is 104 degrees. So we're going to take our infrared thermometer out in the sun and see how this paint job reflects heat compared to other colors. Here we have a car with white paint, the coolest shade. 122 degrees. Here we have a car with black paint, the worst shade you can get in the heat. 157 degrees. Now we'll try the temperature off our red paint. A nice cool 130 degrees. Not bad. So this metallic red paint is not only the best looking of the bunch in my opinion, but it reflects heat quite well. It would be my first choice. And I do see GMC Terrains driving around in this hot desert climate with black paint. Makes me wonder if the owners have lost their mind. Bad choice for the desert. Okay, if you live in Hawaii or Alaska, I suppose. There is a diesel engine available, but for gasoline, there are only two choices. The 252 horsepower 2-liter that I wanted and did not get, and the 1.5 turbo, put out 170 horsepower, I didn't want, but did get. In all fairness, the fuel economy rating for this small engine is pretty good. 26 to 30, 28 overall. If I can get close to that, I'll be happy. We'll be doing a lot of driving to see what we get. For the first 50 miles, I was getting 22 mpg. Now at 82 miles, it's dropped to 19 mpg, but keep in mind, it's really hot outside, and I was driving pretty hard in heavy city traffic. I'm sure we'll do better as I get on the freeway and take some long trips. GM does have some of the nicest looking interiors on the market. Although when you get up close, you see some of the plastics are on the cheap side. Cost accountants at work. There is more than adequate room in the second row seating for 2 adults, maybe 3 kids, 4 monkeys. We get a large, roomy glove box. Thank you. A giant console in between the seats. Thank you again. The climate controls are easy to use, large knobs, the way it should be. Down below, the transmission shifter, park, reverse, neutral, drive. A lot of car reviewers don't like this. I don't know what the problem is. I think it's a good idea. A lot better than having a giant shift knob down in here, getting in your way. Ooh, a quarter. Lucky me. There's a nice gauge cluster with useful information. And a program that tells you your tire pressures. Comes in handy when you're going off-road. Let's lift the tailgate and see what's under here. Plenty of storage. The second row seats do fold down for more room. And way down under here somewhere, a nice storage compartment and a spare tire, which comes in handy if you get a flat. This concludes part 1 of Show and Tell. Let's go to part 2 and do some driving. The electric power steering on this vehicle feels pretty nice. No complaints from me. Responsive enough. Usually only take sports cars on the turning circle, but I'm kind of curious to see how this front wheel drive will work without the all-wheel drive. A bit of body lean, but it's not spinning out. That's pretty good. In fact, we're doing very good for an SUV. I'm impressed. I wasn't expecting much from this tiny 1.5 liter turbo engine, but actually does a pretty good job of pulling around this 3,600 pounds of weight. I think I'm going to like this engine more than I thought I would. Let's give it a go. Takes a while to spool up. Yeah, now we're moving. Not going to pin you to the seat, but it does fairly well. This vehicle has excellent brakes, by the way, very responsive. The factory recommends 35 pounds of air in each tire, which is what we got. But the hot weather has pressed us up to 37, 38 as expected. That explains the excellent handling on the turning circle. It also explains a bit of a stiff ride on potholes. As with all our vehicles, we're going to do a speed bump test. See how the suspension responds to impacts. Here comes our first bump, 25 miles per hour. Heard it, didn't feel it. Number 2. Number 3. Very good, solid body structure. But here comes the nasty one. About the same as the others. Overall, pretty good considering the high tire pressures. It passed. For the rest of this video, we're going to take a couple highway trips to see if we can up the fuel economy figures and do a bit of off-roading. Stay tuned. This vehicle has a feature you need to know about. It's called automatic start-stop, something we see on many other vehicles nowadays. And here's how it works. You pull up to a stoplight, you put your foot on the brake, then the engine shuts itself off. The light turns green, you step on the gas, the engine starts again. Allegedly, this allows the engine to save fuel in stop-and-go traffic. If you live in Los Angeles or Atlanta, where the freeway runs around 5 miles per hour in rush hour traffic, you might save a bit of gas. Otherwise, probably not. A lot of consumers don't like this feature, and that's why a lot of manufacturers put a button on the dash to disconnect the auto start-stop. On some General Motors cars, they have a disconnect button. On other General Motors cars, they do not. This Cadillac CT6, what we drove last week, had a disconnect switch for the auto start-stop. On the other hand, this Cadillac XT5 we drove did not have a disconnect for the auto start-stop. So if you're concerned about that, it's always a good idea to ask your dealer rep which GM vehicles have it and which GM vehicles don't. They know and they can tell you. On the GMC terrain, don't bother looking for the disconnect switch because they don't have one. There is no way to disconnect the system. So if you like the start-stop systems, you're good to go. If you're not sure, you might want to take a test drive before you buy and see what you think. This scorching 105-degree heat has really caused the fuel economy in city driving to drop. We're going to go out and do some freeway driving and see if we can get these figures up a bit. And yes, I will be resetting it to 0. No emails, please. Like so. At the moment, we're at 1,100 feet elevation, climbing to 6,000 feet elevation. Naturally, going uphill, our fuel economy figures might not look too good. But there will be a return downhill trip. We'll add up the mileage from 2 trips, divide by 2 to get the average fuel economy. So stay tuned. By the way, this is a very quiet vehicle at highway speeds. All that whooshing noise you're hearing coming out of your speaker, that's not the vehicle, it's the air conditioning on full blast because it's 109 degrees outside and I like staying cool. 24.1 going uphill. I'll get ready for the downgrade. Before we take our return highway trip, we're going to do a little bit of off-road driving. That is what an SUV is for, after all. This suspension is doing a pretty good job of absorbing the washboard dirt road impacts. You got to make sure you got good traction on these roads. It's a long ways down. If you're going to take the terrain off-road, there are 3 things you need to know. First of all, this is based on a car chassis, not a truck with a heavy-duty frame. So you have to drive gently, just as you would your passenger car. Number 2, if you're going to be driving in mud and sand over there, mud over here, you might want to order the optional all-wheel drive, because in front-wheel drive, you're likely to get stuck. And number 3, this front-end nose rides rather low to the ground. If you're going to enter dips, you might get it bumped, scratched. And that's on the street. Out here in the sticks, even more so. So you have to be careful what you're doing. I wanted to get more off-roading video, but it seems all the roads are closed today due to fire danger. This concludes our freeway trip. 24 mpg going uphill, 28 going downhill. That's an average of 26 mpg on the freeway. I think that's close enough to the EPA rating. Good enough for me. So after a week of driving, what's my take on the GMC Terrain? Well, it's certainly one of the better looking vehicles out there. The styling is very nice. And number 2, the price is right if you keep the options low, a bit high if you load the options up. It's certainly comfortable to drive in daily commuting, and that small little turbo engine Gives a lot more performance at low speeds than what I was expecting. So if you've been down to the Chevrolet dealer looking at the Equinox SUV, I think I'm pronouncing that right still, you might want to check over to the GMC lot and look at the Terrain SUV. Basically same vehicle, just different looks, and I think this one's a bit better looking myself. Just my opinion. GMC or Chevrolet, the choice is yours.